It's a pleasure to have my friend, brilliant lawyer Jim Trusty, with us, former Trump lawyer, to discuss this report. Now, Jim, I know that the special counsel discussed Joe Biden's mental capacity, which obviously is appropriate. People, why did he do that? Because he's trying to explain one of the reasons they chose not to bring charges, but it wasn't the only one. But here's my problem. They have a finding that Joe Biden, and I quote the report, willfully removed and retained classified information and disclosed classified information. And they said, even if he had his wits, that wouldn't be something they would charge. Well, why not? That is a violation of the Espionage Act.
Yeah, I didn't know there was an exception to the Espionage Act for writing egotistical autobiographies and wanting to hold on to classified material. I mean, and look, none of this is a surprise, Mark. I mean, we knew, first of all, you knew if there's a report that it's not an indictment. So we knew it was going to be a non-prosecution. But I think when you read this memo, and it's a monster, 388 pages, it really strains to find reasons not to prosecute. It's kind of a result in search of justification. And to your point about his mental state, and again, keep in mind, the removal and the unauthorized removal of these documents took place many years ago originally. He held on to this stuff quite knowingly, but they describe him as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. And I thought this almost feels like Stockholm Syndrome. Like they sat down with this guy and he turned on the old man charm and they swooned, or at least they swooned for purposes of trying to say they don't have a prosecutable case. So there's a lot to digest, a lot of differences that actually cut the wrong way in terms of Biden's knowing and willful behavior, and a lot of evidence that they kind of gloss over. But they come to a result that is consistent with the history of presidents and vice presidents holding on to documents, maybe not senators, but it goes to a broader problem of handling classified materials, which has been a problem for every modern president.
Which is why when they went to a alarm fire with Trump, it was outrageous. He's got the Secret Service there. There was no indication he was sharing classified information with anybody. There is a significant constitutional issue, whether it remains classified if a president takes a document. All these things of first impression, they force these issues, whether it's immunity after, whether it's ballot initiatives. We're only facing all this because of the outrageous, aggressive nature of the lawyers, lower courts, in trying to change the law, violate comity, COMITY, tradition, and try and push the system to the limit. What do you think of that?
I think you're exactly right. I mean, look, all roads on the criminal side, I know there's civil litigation floating out there that's got issues too, but on the criminal side, everything runs through the Attorney General. He can hide behind Jack Smith all he wants, but he's the guy that's ultimately making decisions. And at the end of the day, with the way modern presidencies and some vice presidents have dealt with classified materials, it's got issues. There's document retention issues for sure for every president. But this same Department of Justice used to say it's up to the former president, and that doesn't even help Joe Biden here, but the former president gets to decide what he can hold on to. And if he holds on to something that we don't approve of, then the most we can do is sue him in D.C. civilly. In other words, the Presidential Records Act was never meant to be a criminal statute. And it's a completely different ball of wax than anything that you deal with when it comes to typical Espionage Act scenarios. So, DOJ and this Attorney General decided to criminalize it. And all this does is underscores what a complete double standard we have in this country right now, and how the Department of Justice is just teetering on the edge where everyone, lawyer, non-lawyer alike, can smell unfairness. And it's not that I want to see Biden prosecuted for this stuff. I think none of these officials should be getting prosecuted. We need to clean up the system. But the problem is when it's this stark, a different treatment. I mean, and let me just say this, Mark, if you'll let me go for a quick second.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that Rob Hur's people did not run roughshod over attorney-client privilege. They didn't destroy executive privilege in the name of going after Joe Biden. They didn't have one of their deputies blackmail an attorney to try to flip them against Biden. I mean, the aggressiveness that was brought to bear on something that's not even truly criminal is completely different with Mar-a-Lago than it is up north at Car-a-Lago up in Delaware.
And you were involved in this case with Trump, so you know. Did they even have a federal grand jury that they were using?
Yeah, unclear to me right now. I haven't read all 388 pages. I assume that there was at least some compelled interviews, but not much. I mean, I also just noticed everything from Mar-a-Lago was accompanied by leaks. I mean, every time there was a good day for President Trump, there was a leak the next morning out of either DOJ or the FBI. It was complete radio silence until a couple of days ago for Delaware, just saying a report is forthcoming. So the discipline at keeping things quiet has been interesting. I need to pour through the report with, a lot more time, but I can tell you there's just no way that their investigation at all mirrors the intensity, the harassment of witnesses and things that took place down in Florida.
And we have this situation now where people are right. I mean, that you don't remember when your vice presidency ended. You don't remember when your son tragically died. You don't remember these things. And this hoax has been pulled on the American people now for several years by his party, by his family, by his friends, by his colleagues, by the media. I mean, what do you make of a country that has the biggest political party that pushes a man like this for the presidency, knowing damn well he's incapable of even doing the job?
I mean, it's the emperor wears no clothes, right? I mean, there's people on both sides of the aisle that fully recognize that although he may have a few good, cogent moments, there's a lot of bad moments. And can you imagine how bad the moments are behind the scenes? The things that Dr. Jill Biden sees would probably, wilt us in place if we knew all the details of having a man who's just beyond his years. He is an old 80. It's not that he's any magic age. It's just that his mental acuity is definitely not what it used to be. I mean, it served him well for this report in a sense, but I don't hear the chorus of people talking about presidential disability like we did during the early years of President Trump.
And so he says, the bottom line is they didn't charge me. And you see, if it were Jack Smith handling this case, and if this were Donald Trump, he would have charged him. He would have challenged the idea that you can't indict a sitting president. He would have taken it to a friendly court, a friendly circuit court, and hoped for the best with the Supreme Court. In other words, he would have pushed that issue despite half a century of agreement among attorneys general of both parties that you can't. He would have pushed the edge of that envelope, don't you think?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. Maybe not Jack Smith personally, but like his doppelganger, a Jack Smith who would be willing to take on a Democratic target like President Biden. And look, I mean, it's some of this is from me living it, of course, and being on the inside while things were happening. But a lot of this is certainly out there in the public that, there were just no rules. Everything about the Mar-a-Lago prosecution was a testament to creativity. And that's just not a word we want to use when we're talking about targeting a presidential contender and a former president. And with President Biden, we're back to kind
of
the
my
typical
friend. Gotta go. God bless you. Thanks for everything, Jim. We're going to definitely need you to come back.